Hi everybody, Carissa here from Inky Fairy Designs, and I'm back with another fun Brutus Monroe project. This week we are looking at June's stencil of the month, which is this one right here. It has these beautiful seashells and swirls, and we're going to be doing some fun things with that. Also, we're working with the June stamp of the month. So if you're part of these kits that you get every month, hopefully you'll find a little bit of inspiration using them. Today, I'm going to be using some media paste along with some aqua pigments in yellow, orange, turquoise, magenta, and these foundation dyes from Brutus Monroe. So let's go ahead and get started making our project today. I'm going to start with some watercolor paper. This is 140-pound cold press watercolor paper. It's just what I have on hand most readily. And I'm going to take some purple tape and attach the paper to the back of the stencil so that it will not move. This is my favorite way to kind of use stencils. And I'm going to take this media paste from Brutus Monroe, and I'm going to grab all of that yummy paste off of the lid, get it in the jar, and give it a good mix. I just want to mix that up, make sure it's nice and the consistency is very even. This paste has a really creamy consistency. It's really easy to spread through the stencil onto my paper. I'm able to get a very nice even layer, thin layer, which I like when I'm working with this kind of product to put on a card. And I was really pleased with the application that I was able to get. Very quick and easy. I like to use a palette knife. I just use a simple plastic one, and then I'm going to get as much of that excess back into the jar, and you can see how cleanly this media paste went through the stencil. There's actually no bleeding or anything like that. So I'm going to set that off to the side. We're going to come back to it later and do something really fun with it. But while it's drying, let's go ahead and get our image ready. I am working on the Brutus Monroe alcohol marker paper, and I'm stamping with the detail ink and Raven, of course, because it's alcohol ink friendly, and I'm going to be using my Copics today. I got a sample sheet of this alcohol paper in my creative team, or my inspiration team box this month, and I was really excited to try it out. I have been coloring with Copic markers for years, since I started crafting back in 2009. Oh my goodness, it's hard to say that because that's how long I've been doing this, but I love it, so that's why I'm still doing it. Anyway, so I have tried so many papers over the years, and I'm really happy to say that this paper held up to all of the expectations that I have for a coloring paper. I like that it is bright white. That is my preference when I am coloring with Copics. I like to have a nice, super bright white paper. Not so much when I'm watercoloring, because most watercolor papers are kind of like a creamy off-white. So I don't generally look for that brightness in watercolors. But for my Copics, I do like a bright white paper, and this definitely met that expectation for me. It also handled the layers of colors that I use in my coloring, because I do color from light to dark, and you can see, if you're interested in the colors that I used on this cute little turtle, they're up in the upper left hand corner of the screen. So I leave the marker caps up there so you guys can see them, write them down. If you see a color combination that you like, go for it. So anyway, I liked that it handled my layering really nicely, and it didn't bleed out of the lines, and yeah, I was really impressed with it, and I got some really good blends. You can see there on the cute little face. So like I said, I colored from light to dark, and then I go back to my light, so I go from the dark to the medium, back to the light, and blend it all together. and this paper really handled that well. Some papers you can get a little bit of bleeding when you add too much ink down, but this one didn't at all. So definitely super pleased with it. So if you're looking for a good paper to color on with your alcohol markers, I would definitely recommend this and say give it a shot. I will have a link to all of the supplies in the description box below, of course. And it's also nice because I ended up ordering this on my own as well. And it came in like A2 size sheets. So 4¼ by 5½, which is kind of handy, so you don't have to like cut it down. It's like a convenience factor thing, totally not necessary. I do buy paper packs that are full 8½ by 11 sheets, and I just cut them in quarters myself. But yeah, for convenience factor, I have to give them kudos for that. So I have switched my color combination for the shell of the turtle. So I used kind of a brighter green for the body, and now I am toning it down with these kind of muted gray greens for the shell, and I'll also bring in a little bit of brown that you will see. Here I'm doing a little tip-to-tip coloring. This is what I do when you can see I jump from BG93 to BG96, and that's kind of a large jump. And whenever I have that kind of a jump in my coloring and I'm not getting a smooth blend, I will just take that lighter marker, touch it to the tip of the darker marker, and then blend it into my image wherever I'm coloring. So that's a good tip if you don't have a wide variety or a lot of colors to blend. Say you have like a super light color and then a dark color, but you don't have that mid-tone. Try the tip-to-tip with your lightest and your darkest, and you can achieve that little mid-tone blend by doing that. So now I'm going to go ahead and finish coloring this little guy's shell, just simply adding a little bit of color to the eyes using that same color I used on the shell, that same brown. And then I think I realized I missed a few spots, so I'm filling that in as well before I go in and color the baby turtle. Now, when I am coloring like two images that are in a stamp, I like to give them a bit of variation, even if I want to use the same kind of colors. So I wanted to color the turtles green, but I wanted them to have a little bit of variation to them. So I didn't want the little turtle to be exactly the same color as the larger turtle, because then they would kind of just blend and you wouldn't see the definition between the two. So I chose a brighter, lighter yellow-green for the little turtle, which I am thinking of as the baby turtle. And I figure, you know, babies generally, I don't know, I'm just kind of thinking to myself, babies have lighter skins, they're brighter, you know, they're newer, so bright colors to me kind of represent that. And so that's why I went with this bright green. And then for the shading on it, you can see I chose a pale lavender, and that's because it's the opposite of yellow, and so it creates kind of a tone or a neutral. And anytime I'm shading with yellow and I don't really want to go to the next darker yellow, I really just want a shadow, I tend to reach for my purple. So that's a good tip too, if you're looking for that. So I went ahead and finished coloring her, gave her a little rosy cheek, and just a simple orange star on her back. And then I figured maybe that's a mama turtle, and so I gave her some rosy cheeks as well. So now my panel is dry. I did cheat a little bit and I used my heat tool to help speed along the process of drying, and I have got to say that the media paste held up really well to the heat. Some pastes do not. Some pastes you definitely do not want to heat unless you want them to create additional texture by bubbling and bursting and stuff like that. But this one really held up well. And I don't know if it's because I added the heat at a point where it was probably 75% dry. But any case, it did really well, and I was really happy with that. So this is some fun stuff here. This is what I love. I love mixed media, and I love watercolors, and so I thought it would be really fun to try to kind of create this bright, colorful rainbow background on top of the media paste that we created with that stencil. And so I pulled in those three colors of Aqua Pigments, which was yellow, orange, turquoise, and magenta. And they're kind of like primary colors, but not your red, yellow, and blue. They're shades of that. And so I knew by choosing those three colors that they would mix and blend and play really nice together. So you'll see that I created some greens here and some purples. And so that's what I mean by, those colors are going to generally play really nicely with each other. There, I got a little bit of mud, but I'm just picking that up with a dry paper towel. And then I add a little bit more of that yellow orange, and I'm able to kind of fix that area a little bit. So I just kind of play around. I actually went right onto the media paste with the dropper of the Aqua Pigments, and then you can see sometimes I used a water brush to kind of move the pigment around if I didn't want to tilt it and kind of have that tendency to possibly create some mud. So when I wanted to blend it around, I just pulled in the water brush, and here I am using my heat tool again to kind of heat that and set it. So once everything was dry, I went ahead and cut that down a little bit. I wanted a large white border around my background because it was so bright and colorful. I just felt like it needed some contrast. So I also went ahead and matted on the navy cardstock from Brutus Monroe, and I fussy cut the turtle image, you can see. So for the sentiment, I decided in the end to die cut a circle to place my sentiment on, and now I'm going to offset that circle. So I have the sentiment on the upper left corner of that background panel, and then it's balanced with the turtle in the lower right hand side. So I really wanted to have that balance, and I wanted that background to kind of shine. And then I put the sticky adhesive on the wrong side. So it just, card making is a journey. We make mistakes, but we can always fix it, right? So once I had that, I wanted to go ahead and I just pulled out my guillotine trimmer, and this is so nice. I can line it up and then just chop that right off, and it's a perfect line. Better than scissors ever. Love that thing. So now I'm going to just start to assemble the card. So like I said, I created a mat with that navy cardstock, and I felt like it gave it a really nice contrast with that bright background. I really love the way that it came out. I did add a little bit of shimmer to it. I didn't film that part, but I added some pixie dust in a spray bottle and just kind of lightly misted my whole background with that, so you can see a little bit of shimmer there. And then I can never get it straight. So I'm going to add a little bit of dimensional adhesive to the back of my turtles. And you can see the back of that paper, how you can see the alcohol marker bled right through. That's what you want in a good alcohol marker paper. You'll be able to see that. It just blends beautifully from front to back. Really nice. And that really finishes off the card today. It's very, the design of the card is simple, but the making of that background and using that stencil was really, really fun. So I encourage you, if you guys have some mixed media stencils in your stash, or maybe you have this month's June stencil of the month, give it a try. If you have some media paste in your stash, and then add some aqua pigments over it and see what kind of combination and colors you can come up with. I think it's a really fun look. Here are some close-ups. You can see that sparkle that I was talking about and all that variation of color, even though I used just 3 aqua pigments. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss any inspiration. And if you share your projects or if you're inspired by this one, please be sure to tag Brutus Monroe as well as myself at Inky Fairy Designs. I love to see what you guys are creating. And thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye.